Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. Bad news, caffeine is terrible for you and you're gonna almost swore effing die. That was close, YouTube. Still here though, baby. In any case, caffeine is bad for you and that's BS. But why? I thought it was bad for you. I thought it was this drug we all took in secret and we knew it was killing us, but we couldn't stop. There's maybe a little truth to that. So here's the thing. Yes, caffeine is a stimulant, but it is a very mild one. What is a non-mild stimulant? Something like Dexedrine or some shit that's like Adderall. That shit will blow your fucking head off your body, for sure. Caffeine is actually a very mild stimulant, so it can marginally raise blood pressure, which could be a not so great thing. We'll get back to that in a little bit. It can definitely increase anxiety, especially if you're prone to Jewish anxiety increases. Know anyone like that though? Aye. And it can cause mild chemical dependence in some people, which is defined as like when you withdraw from a drug, do you experience any physiological side effects? I'm talking about my wife. Yes. When 2 monsters a day stop hitting that girl in the face, first of all, she begins to take stabbing implements and run after me with them, which I never enjoyed. But she doesn't run for long because she gets a massive debilitating headache and almost passes out. And then it's a kind of a win-win. And then when she's normal again, she's not crazy again, it's all awesome. So yeah, when some people don't get their caffeine, they get the headaches and all this other stuff, which tells us like, hey, this is like a drug, and we have to have some reverence about it. You can't just assume it's good for our health. But it does some good things, and good things with relation to quality of life, and actually good things that may impact our health better in other ways. So it reduces appetite pretty significantly for many people, or at least controls it, or at least prevents the appetite spikes from getting really crazy. And that's kind of cool because caffeine can be an intelligent part or accidental part of your weight control program. Why do I say accidental? Because a variety of stimulants have been used to control people's weight. Sometimes these stimulants aren't the greatest thing in the world, but here's some examples. Like if you're a European fashion model in the 60s, you actually exist on 2 things, coffee and cigarettes. That's it. You get so much stimulant from those that you don't really eat much food. Bad news is you're in terrible health and a fucking drug addict. Good news is that you're probably very light and quite lean. And if your physical activity is pretty decent, then you're actually pretty healthy, even with the nicotine of the cigarettes counterbalancing that. And of course, the tar and all that other shit of the cigarettes really counterbalancing that, but that's all later in life. I'm not telling you to smoke. What I am telling you is that if you just take the caffeine part of that and you keep it within reason, then the weight control effects can be additive good to your fitness to some extent in some cases. And of course, an increase in alertness, et cetera, makes you maybe more happy and more productive at work, makes you more of the person you want to be, which is, I think, why people a lot of times take caffeine in. People have their morning cup of coffee and they'll say things like, I'm not me until I've had my coffee. And if they really believe that, it's a big deal, big psychological deal. But what about the long-term stuff? What about long-term health? Here's the deal. Most of the best studies, and by the way, this has been studied into the fucking ground because people have been consuming caffeine products, coffee, tea, et cetera, for hundreds and hundreds of years at this point. And of course, we haven't had studies that go back that far, but modern medicine has been very attuned to the problem or to the situation. And most of the best studies seem to point to no long-term reliable health effects with caffeine use, or it's unclear. They can't really tell. But I'll tell you this as a scientist, with as many studies and the precision that we've had of them so far, if they're still unclear, that means if there is a negative magnitude of caffeine intake on your health, it's going to be very, very, very ultra small. Because if these studies aren't picking it up, if it's still unclear, the shit that really fucks you up is pretty goddamn clear. Like the studies, the actual studies, not the fake ones, on do cigarettes cause health problems, are like the most obvious shit you'll ever see in your life. Like, oh, people are still alive and then they all fucking die of cancer. It's not that, it's pretty open and shut. As with caffeine so far, it seems to be like, okay, if it's bad, then it's probably just not that bad because we can barely even tell. And also it may be bad only in specific cases. So if you are sensitive to caffeine in some number of ways that, for example, radically elevates your blood pressure or something like that, you just have a genotype that doesn't get along molecularly with caffeine, a variety of entry points and interaction points, like various receptors of yours, just saying, when I see caffeine or any other sympathomimetic, I do some bad things for my health. That happens. Like some people just don't meld with some things. But outside of that, generally for a person for whom that's not a problem, and for most people it's not, it seems to be that caffeine, up to pretty decent amounts per day, is quite healthy and totally fine, right? Now, the thing is, it says right here, if you use responsibly and stay under a gram a day of caffeine. A gram a day of caffeine sounds like a fucking insane amount. If you just take a gram all at once, you'll probably experience unreal health maladies, if not death. But if it's through the day and you work up to it, most people will never get that high. Most people take in maybe several hundred milligrams of caffeine per day, but even up to a gram, the only reason I mention that is it's been studied. It's been shown that people who get used to up to a gram of caffeine per day, they don't really seem to have any super long-term negative effects. And that's awesome, especially if you don't get any chronic elevated blood pressure from the caffeine that you're taking. You're really in the clear. And then you can enjoy caffeine. Funny enough, tea and coffee are both really powerful, loaded with powerful antioxidants. So actually drinking tea and or coffee, that's how you get your caffeine, may actually be a net health benefit, right? So enjoy your shit. I don't personally use caffeine because it just makes me anxious and jittery, and not a ton of upsides there. I used to have trouble focusing, so I'd take stimulants to help me focus. Nowadays, I don't really have that trouble anymore. And so I don't really like the way coffee and or caffeine of any kind makes me feel. I'll take it on rare occasions when I'm jet lagged or when I'm driving a car and I'm going to fucking fall asleep and kill everyone. I'll have some caffeine, but generally stay away from it. But I don't stay away from it for any reason about its health or anything like that. It seems to be just fine for health. And I think a lot of people poo-poo it because it's a chemical. And, you shouldn't be having chemicals. So like these naturalistic fucks, anytime you have caffeine at, your friend's party or, at an airport lounge or strike up conversation with someone and they're like, well, you look like you're into fitness. You're taking in all that caffeine. Yep, because it's perfectly safe. Get the fuck out of my face. You don't have to say that, but you can. Make sure you know how to fight. See you guys next time.